All right. So, Melissa, did you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay. Sweet.
So for my speech, I chose radical feminism, and I'll just start talking about, I guess, why this is an issue, especially for families today. I'll begin by saying I am grateful for many, many uppity feminists who pushed the limits and decided that they wanted more for themselves. Because of feminists that I am able to have an education. It's because of feminists that I am able to wear pants most of the time and to vote and to have opinions and to be able to join society in many things, to be able to get equal pay as men or to be able to have a position that wasn't available um, a couple of decades ago. I'm very, very grateful for a lot of things in the feminist movement. But at the same time, I think that the discussion changes when you talk about radical feminism. When women decide that because we should be equal as men and women, that we should be the same. And that's my argument. I think that it's harmful to the family to um, provide one perspective to a child, that they only need to have um, one ideal to look at. There's a reason that the Lord has wanted us to have a father and a mother in the home to fulfill those roles of providing, but also emotional, nurturing, supportive roles that mothers have traditionally filled in the world's history, not just in American history, not just in um, our society or conservative, but in world history, that is traditionally what women do because they're biologically set up to do that. Um, I've read lots of research articles about feminism on both sides, and I've seen many benefits of women who show their children that they can be driven, who show their children that they can work harder, that they can become something successful, someone who contributes to society in a different way than maybe women traditionally have. Women do many great things for society in the workplace. I'm not saying that's not so, but I've read lots of research about the other side, where women who leave the home or maybe who decide that equality means sameness provide a hindrance to their children. I'm reading from a research article done here by it's Lawrence Ephraim and Associates Publishers, and it says contemporary research on men and family relationships has very mixed results. Some studies show small effects of fathers on child development and their role in preventing antisocial behavior, but most suggest that children who grow up in families with a masculine father and also a feminist mother have higher rates of antisocial behavior, more likely to do poorly in school, more likely to have learning disabilities, and the list goes on of the effects um, that children growing up with a feminist mother would have. Another issue that comes in is that uh, women who tend to be more feminist tend not to have children at all. Then that leads to many other issues that we could have chosen to talk about. The fact that fertility rates and birth rates are declining because women decide that they want to do other things with their lives. Thus, countries like Portugal and Greece have failing economies because people aren't having children to replace the workforce. And that's an economic problem that you wouldn't think would have any bearing on the setup of a family, but it does. And don't want to go over on time here too much, but I was just reading an article written by a woman who works in the UN, and she talks about how she has worked in very professional settings, and she's also been a stay-at-home mother. And she actually kind of points at what's happening in the church right now with priesthood, which I think is really interesting for us to look at. Um, and let me find here what she says. She says, I worked for 10 years as a human rights activist in the United Nations. One of the greatest and most profound threats I have found to human rights in our time is radical feminism. She talks about how the roles of men and women are different for a reason, that it's not something that is set up to be a to put women in a submissive role, but something that is set up to help families, to help society. And I could cite you all of the research, but I'm kind of a geek, so I found a lot of it. But basically, women in the home in a nurturing role is good for society. It teaches children different things that they wouldn't learn in another way. And I would come back to a quote by Stephen Covey that says, if you and I were the same, then one of us is unnecessary. And I think that we should think about that a lot as we design families, as we think of what to advocate for within families. And there's nothing weak about a woman who is feminine in her role in the home. There's nothing demeaning about a mother who decides to care for the children. There's nothing that is um, lacking in our society when women do this. It's not like they're not contributing. It's not like they're not helping society. It's not as though they are being chained up in their home and not contributing at all. That's not the case. In fact, it's the opposite. Children who grow up in that kind of home are more successful in society, which makes it so we don't have to pay for things like social support to pick up the slack where they didn't learn their lesson. And while I know that this is a two-sided argument, and I appreciate a lot of the feminist movement, I think that we've gone too far by saying that women need to be the same as men. And that is my speech.
Yay.
Very well done. Very well done.
So we're supposed to do a question section now, so if you have any questions for me, you are welcome to question away.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you weren't LDS, do you think your perspective on this issue would be different?
Honestly, probably. I am a very driven, I don't mean to brag, but I'm very driven comparative to young women my age, I think. I'm about to enter a graduate work program, and I think it could be very easy for me to get caught up in the idea um, that I can do just as many things as a man can do. And I think society is very, very persuasive in their arguments to put down traditional feminine roles, and I could probably easily believe those things if I didn't have a religious perspective and the spirit telling me otherwise.
Yeah. Well, my opinion is you can do a lot more than a man can do. So, but just different roles, and so I think that's awesome. I appreciate that. And so, along with that, how do we reach those who don't have the same? What would you say to someone who doesn't have the same religious view? Um, to help them with that idea in mind that, okay, if I wasn't, then maybe I wouldn't support this. What would you say, just briefly, to someone who doesn't have the same religious perspective as you?
I would cite the research, because if I learned anything being a marriage and family studies major, it's that the research supports the Lord's plan. And if you look at the cold hard statistics, which are come through a very methodical and mathematical way, those numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And so I would cite statistics and research to show when we try and change the structure of the family, when we try and change traditional roles that are within the family, that it does not help it. It hinders that and thus society. I just cite the research.
Well put. I agree. Science and religion, they seem to go like this all the time, but really, they're
Oh
friends.
yeah.
work together. And so,
I
yeah,
agree. Yeah.
awesome.
I have one.
All right.
Um, so I know that like women, I think make like 75 cents for every dollar a man makes or something like that.
It's about 85.
85? Okay. Well, at least that's better. I wrote down, I don't know if this, so if when you were researching, did you come across anything um, as far as any rights that women don't have that men do?
I think that depends on the society you're looking at. Obviously, there are many developing countries where there are significant gaps between the rights available to men and available to women, like land ownership, being able to inherit your family's property. Um, the list is huge. Not being able to vote, not being able to have an education. But within the United States, I think that that gap has gotten a lot smaller. Um, the issues I think now that people are pushing for are more to close the gender pay gap and to look at maternity rights within hiring and promotions, because people who are hiring someone for a position, I mean, if you just think about it logistically, it's safer for them to hire a man who they know won't have to leave for maternity leave, or they won't have to pay for maternity leave, than it would be to consider a woman where they have that issue available. So I think those are the main issues now being, I guess, presented.
Okay, cool.
You have any other questions, or are we ready to move on to another?
That's it. I wrote down questions, but you answered them, which is good.
All right. Does anyone else want to give their speech now?
Allison, you want to go now or last?
It's up to you. I didn't like. I was just planning on like reading my entire speech as I wrote it, so I was like, I hope that that's okay. I don't know.
No, that's fine. I'm gonna be doing similar.
You guys are
So
like frozen on my computer. I don't know why. Like, I like you guys aren't moving. It's just me, and I can look at myself, which is
You have
awkward.
nothing going on?
I mean, I can see you guys like at the little pictures at the bottom, but the main box is on me, and it like hasn't moved for like 5 minutes. But that's okay. I can still hear
Can
you.
you refresh it at all?
we're
How
not
do you?
moving.
Yeah, you're just like in the little boxes at the bottom,
Hmm.
not moving. I don't know how
Interesting.
that works, but at least I'm like still here and the Wi-Fi works, and I
Try
can.
and turn your camera off and then turn it back on.
Uh,
It
yeah.
should be at the top of the screen. Is that better?
No.
Oh,
I did it for my camera too. Did it change anything?
yeah.
You're just black now.
Oh.
Well, the whole screen's black. You're not black.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about this to even get on at the right time, so I can't tell you.
Me neither. That's okay. I can go next if you guys want.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm just gonna basically read what I wrote, and yeah, hopefully it's enough. I read it through to try to time myself, and it's like 3.5 pages, and it was only like 4 minutes. So I don't know how that happened,
I'm
but
just
I'll just
reading
try to
fast,
go quick.
so
Speak
slow down
slowly.
and breathe. You're fine.
Yep.
Okay, so I wrote on divorce. Um, I'll kind of give a background to, I guess. So in here, I talk a little about divorce. In my personal situation, my parents are divorced, and I think I have like the ideal divorce situation, which is kind of sounds funny, but um, like I in the church we always hear like don't get divorced, and so like I understand that there are like it's not um, ideal, but there are some situations where it is the best option. So that's kind of my little disclaimer here. Um, but here it goes. Okay, so Over the decades, divorce has become increasingly prevalent within American culture. As a child of divorced parents, I have personally experienced the positive and negative effects of divorce. My parents separated when I was 2 and divorced when I was 4. I am thankful that I was too young to remember the divorce. However, it came with a price of not having a strong father figure for most of my life. The effect that divorce has on children is negative, but what may be even more frightening is the growing attitude Americans have towards divorce. An individualistic approach with the mantra, do what makes you happy, is the unfortunately prevalent opinion that has taken priority over the needs of the family, spouse and children included. Today I will be speaking on divorce, its negative effects on families, and what we can do to create positive change. According to the Family Research Council, there has been a decline of the institution of marriage because of low marriage rates, delayed marriage, divorce, cohabitation, and out-of-wedlock childbearing. Currently, the divorce rates are between 40 and 50%. Children are particularly vulnerable victims during a divorce. According to the Family Research Council, children who are raised by married parents are more likely to have greater benefits than children who are not raised by married parents, and that children benefit because they see complementary parental roles of mothers and fathers. They have less risky behavior because they are more likely to receive love and attention from married parents, and they are also more likely to have a successful marriage themselves after seeing a template for their future marriage with their parents. These are only some of the benefits. The Family Research Council also provides evidence that children raised by married parents also have safety benefits, better health, higher academic scores, a better relationship with their parents, and they benefit economically as well. Children aren't the only ones to benefit, though. They also list 14 reasons adults can benefit from marriage. From this research, it's easy to see that marriage and staying married is something that everyone benefits from. Sometimes, when a marriage is abusive, or if there is infidelity or an extreme amount of fighting, a divorce may be the best option. However, no-fault divorces are becoming increasingly popular among Americans. No longer does a couple need a good reason to get divorced. A divorce today is justified by saying, "We don't love each other anymore," or simply, "We're bored." This cavalier approach has even led to what USA Today calls divorce parties. Yes, according to the Popular News Center, people are throwing divorce parties, and some even title them with a theme, "Divorced is the new single." Divorce today is just a way to serve one's own needs, often at the expense of others. One of the government programs I researched is a program in Arizona that was proposed in 1998 of the idea of a covenant marriage. This exists in other places besides Arizona. However, since it is my home state, I'm going to use it as an exclusive example. In preparation for a covenant marriage, an engaged couple would have to go through premarital counseling from a clergy member or a marriage counselor. Once the two parties sign the marriage license, they are under contract to each other, and a legal separation or divorce will only be granted under circumstances according to state law. This could include abuse, infidelity, criminal activity, and other circumstances. This type of marriage license isn't just for engaged couples. There are options already available for married couples to change or convert their marriage license to a covenant license. So why would people purposely enter into this knowledge with the restrictions and limitations, and why would the government make this available to couples? The reason is because there's fantastic benefits for the couple, their children, and society at large. Currently, marriage institutions and married couples are pushing for more benefits, such as lower tax rates for married people. Today, according to the Family Research Council, a single person pays fewer taxes than a married couple. They want to change this and encourage people to marry by granting tax breaks to married couples and families. They say tax breaks will promote marriage and deter people from divorcing as well. In many cases, divorce may seem like the best option, the least painful option, and even the easiest option. However, it can be hard on children, lead to more anger and frustration between the divorced couple, and in many cases, people can actually be more miserable after a divorce than they were when they were in the relationship. Children and adults alike can benefit from the institution in countless ways. Our families can be happier, healthier, and more financially stable, among other things. For the health and safety of our American citizens, we need to actively promote marriage and work together to create fewer divorces. Receiving counseling prior to marriage, as well as during marriage, can help save many marriage relationships. Tax breaks may also help to promote marriage and deter couples from splitting up. Doing so may determine the future well-being of our great nation. And that's the end.
Good job.
Sorry, that was so and boring. Yeah.
So, questions, right?
Yep.
Are you ready for us?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, you talked about individualistic societies. Did you come across any research of if the rates of divorce in collectivistic societies are any less, or did you just see that as a factor in like the United States?
Yeah, I didn't even like research individualistic nations generally. I just searched like American
Oh,
divorces, and so since we're considered individualistic, there's also I noticed from past research that there's similar rates among the individualistic European countries and the North American countries as well, but I didn't do anything about the collectivist.
I was just curious. That might be a fascinating factor to look at.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you somewhat have an ideal situation as a child of divorcees, and so did you find any research that supported that some children are better off when parents get divorced?
Well, if there's abuse in the home or like excessive fighting or violence or infidelity, that's going to cause extreme tension between the parents. It's better for the children to not experience that.
Hmm.
Um, like it would be better to be raised by a single parent than to see domestic violence on a daily basis. Um, one interesting thing that I came across though is children who do experience that fighting and stuff like that in their parents' marriage, they actually handle divorce better than children who don't know that there's fighting going on. They handle it better because they can pretty much like expect it to happen, and so they like emotionally kind of soothe and prepare themselves,
Hmm.
which I thought was interesting. But yeah, that was pretty much the only thing. If you're getting divorced because of like circumstances like that, children will be better off not in the home, not in that relationship. Yeah.
Very good.
Do you think that your experience with divorce has colored your perspective of being against it? Do you think that if your parents had stayed together maybe and they were unhappy together that you would have a different perspective?
Um, I probably would be in more favor of divorce, actually. The reason my parents got divorced is because my dad's an alcoholic, and I think he hit my mom a couple of times, and so that was the reason she finally decided. They actually got divorced twice because they got married twice. They're just interesting people, but yeah, I'm like, you guys need to make up your mind, but. They get along really well. It's like they're best friends even today. They just can't be married. They can't make those decisions together. They're better having separate lives, but it's not their actual personalities that clash. It's just their level of maturity. So um, for me, I I wish my dad had been more involved in my life, but that wasn't necessarily due to divorce. There are plenty of um, divorced fathers that are very, very active in their child's life. And I don't necessarily think that I would have gotten any more attention if my dad was in the house. I think he would have been just as distracted and my parents would have fought. So I'm glad that they're divorced because they're both happier and they both have a healthier relationship with me and with each other now. But um, if there wasn't that addiction aspect and the violence aspect, I don't know. It's hard too because they're not Mormon and they weren't raised in that church, so they don't have that support as well. So kind of complex.
So, Allison, you're a convert?
Oh yeah.
How long ago?
Um, 15 months.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep. Thanks. Is
All right,
that it?
I think so. Well
Okay.
done.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right, I'll go ahead and start mine. My name is Corey Andrews, and a little over 2 years ago, I watched my wife as she stepped into our bedroom. She looked at me with a somber expression on her face, and I was full of anticipation as I waited for the news. After a few moments of intense silence, she could suppress her smile no longer. She said, "You're going to be a father." I have held many titles in my life, but one of my all-time favorites is that of a father. You probably are aware that more and more married couples are choosing not to become parents. There are several reasons for this trend, but the overarching motive is individual attitudes toward children. In 2007, the Pew Research Center did a survey that showed attitudes on whether children are important to relationships. Only 41% of Americans said children are very important to successful marriage, compared to 65% in 1990, an almost 25% point decrease in less than 20 years. And it's continuing to decline today. This statistic has a direct link to lower fertility rates. Fertility rates are calculated by the number of live births to 1,000 women between the ages 15 and 44 in a population. These low fertility rates can have a devastating effect on society. This is the issue that I would like to address today. It wasn't long after my wife and I were married that we decided to start having children. I have only been a father for a year and a half, and it has probably been some of the most challenging and stressful 18 months of my life. However, being a father has also been incredibly rewarding. I have already seen how important children are to the benefits of them in family life and also in the society. It has changed not only my perspective on life, but it has also helped me to realize the responsibility I have to help my children grow, learn, progress, and eventually become helpful people and good citizens that contribute positively to society. They, children, are our future. According to the National Vital Statistics Report published in December of 2013, the 2012 total fertility rate for the U.S. was 1,880.5 births per thousand women. This is below the replacement rate level, meaning the level which a given generation replaces itself. This level is generally considered to be 2,100 births per 1,000 women. Some may argue that choosing not to have children is a personal lifestyle decision that doesn't affect anyone. If there isn't enough children to replace the population, what happens? Will it really make a difference whether or not you or your friends or your neighbors choose not to have children? The answer is most definitely yes. And there are many effects and consequences that will become more and more evident as this trend continues. If you were to Google effects of low birth rate, you would notice that most of this stuff that pops up would include threats to the economy. One of the most one of the foremost threats is the housing industry. A journal titled "Low Birth Rates in Japan and Italy" discusses that what has happened in these countries and what can happen in other countries whom also have low birth rates. They pointed out that formation of new households would decline sharply, the demand for new apartments and new houses would thereby also decline sharply. That would have economic ramifications both in and beyond the critical housing industry. Another consequence becomes evident as the population gets older, ages. Older people require more health care than young people, which would place a burden on the younger generation uh, to help pay for the taxes and other means for those who are aging. Other consequences include a decline in students, which affects the entire educational system, and in turn, the pool of young adults who are job ready will also be reduced. I realize that not having children may have its perks. These might include freedom of spending more time and money, or other things a couple might want to do, like going on trips. Uh, Not to mention, it'd be easier for women to further their education and have a career, which would mean two stable full-time incomes. These may seem like benefits, but in the long term, they're only benefiting the couples or the individuals in the couples themselves, and not contributing to long-term, or and would be contributing to long-term effects, to the harmful effects on society. Many have become so enthralled with instant gratification in our society that they miss out on an opportunity to contribute to the future through bearing and raising children. One thing that has been in place that may persuade couples to have children are the benefits that they can receive through filing their taxes each year. TurboTax.com explains these benefits. It includes the dependency exemption, which allows you to receive up to $3,900 in 2012, $3,900 in 2012, and $1,000 child tax credit. These have been put in place by the federal government, but is this money once a year on taxes, on a tax return, enough motivation for couples to start having children? As we recognize the vital role that children play in our future, I would like to suggest that the state legislature create a policy that requires all high school students to take a parenting course as prerequisite to graduating from high school. This course would educate youth on the importance of children for the progress of society. It would also provide training and tools for effective parenting that can be used later in life. This would not be a sex education course, but would be a course for preparing to be parents. I believe that this type of training and preparation would not only educate youth on the importance of children to our society, but would also help individuals to be better prepared for the rigors of parenthood. I would also suggest to us present that you contact your state legislatures and let them know that you are in support of policies that protect families and children. Express to them that you realize the importance of having children and their role in society and its future. This can be done by going to the state government website where their contact information can be found. Don't be silent. Your voice can change the world. In closing, I would like to share with you that my wife and I are now anxiously anticipating our second child, who will be arriving in October. It won't be easy having two children under 2 years old, but uh, we know for sure that children are worth it, no matter the price. They are priceless. Thank you.
Great job.
That was really good. So, question.
Question. Come on.
So you suggest? Oh, sorry. You can go, Allison.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were just like, go ahead.
No, you can speak. You already started.
Okay. So one, I wrote this down beforehand, but do you think that childless people should have access to Medicaid and other government benefits if they are low income?
That's a good question.
Mhm.
Um, I think that if they're low income, I think it depends on the situation. What is the reason? If they are low income because they are students or doing something else that's going to benefit society, as gaining an education or something like that, then and they don't have an income or parents' insurance to rely on, then I think that that could be a possibility depending on a case by case scenario. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a great question.
It's a hardball question. My question is a little less intense. The question is, so you suggested a parenting class for high schoolers
Yeah.
before they can graduate. What social problems would that be aimed at fixing? Would it be aimed at looking at promoting parenting in general for society, or would it be aimed at I guess I'm just curious what social problems you'd want that to address.
Um, Two things. Two things would be part of the goal of this parent or this preparation for parenting class. One is to help society or help the youth in our society be better educated on the importance of children. Because I think a lot of people think, oh, if I don't want to have children, that's my choice and it doesn't affect anybody, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
what people think. But if we can educate them and let them know that, hey, our fertility rate is declining, and we don't have enough to replace our society. And look at all these effects that that's going to have on a society as a whole if this continues. Then I think that people will realize that when they have children, it's not just about them and what they're giving up, but that they're supporting society. And it won't change everybody. There's still going to be people that will choose to not do that. But okay, and then number two, it also gives them a little bit of preparation that, okay, I've been trained on this. You know, in school we train on different subjects that prepare them for the workforce, right? And to be effective people in society as far as work goes. But parenting and families, that's the most important job that any of these people will ever have because of its effects that it will have on our future. And so if we can prepare them, have maybe a course that's put together that prepares them for that job that hopefully they will choose to have, then it can bless their lives in the future and bless the society in the future.
Excellent. Do you think that parents will be apprehensive about teaching teenagers the joys of parenthood before they're maybe ready to embark on it?
Yes. And that was kind of what when I guess when I was thinking about it, that was I was like, would I really want somebody else teaching my children about being parents? And I think ideally it's in the home that should be taught, and that's my gut feeling that the joys of parenting should be. But there's so many kids who do not get that in the home. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the supportive parents or the great examples as parents, and so I think in general it would benefit those who do not have that. Uh, but I do agree that some parents would be apprehensive towards it.
Wow. That's some of my questions. Do you have any more questions, Allison?
Um, Not really. They're kind of all answered-ish. So, yeah, I'm good.
Cool.
Good job, guys.
18.
All right. Well, that was fun. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Good job. Nice speeches. I don't think we have to do any wrap up this time either.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You
You
too.
too.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.